Okay, we're started on Zoom now. All right. Okay. Derek? Yes. Estefany? Yes. Armando? Yes. Yes. Yian? Aurora? Sebastian? Damien? Leah? Yes. Hannah? Yes. Eve? Yes. Janelle? Nuha? Yes. Stormy? Yesenia? Joshua? All right. Okay. All right. All right. So today this is the plan. I am going to discuss your profile speeches. The grades have been turned in. I just need to have got my notes, and I'm going to discuss how you did. I'm going to discuss with you, talk to you, ask you what could you have done better, and just have a conversation. So that's which I wanted to do it that day itself. Uh, it's all cluttered. But we were just we didn't have that amount of time. So that's what we are going to do. Right, here we go. You see there was a speech class here. All right. Okay. All right. Today, so I would like all of you to open. I've got your assignments. I've graded it as well. Your annotated bibliography and your the script for your informative speech. I got that. I graded it. So I just want you to take it out in your laptops or whatever you're using a tablet. Just take that out for me, please. And then this is what we are going to do. Today's class, we will focus on writing. All right, writing our speech. I'm going to look at. I'm actually going to be talking about some of the concepts that we need to really look at when we are writing our informative speech, and we're going to discuss all of that. And then straight away, I will be getting into your scripts, and then talking to you about it. But before that, we're going to see how well we covered the concepts. All right. Here we go. This is where we are. Okay. Video mute. Okay. All right. So Blackboard. Okay, here we go. Our class. And once we go to instructor PowerPoint, everything is loaded here. So this is where we are going to work. And of course, I'm going to go to your syllabus just to show you where we are in your syllabus. This is where we are. All right, so your profile speech is done. Your outline for your profile speech, you've already presented it. That's done. Informative speech, outline, and bibliography is done. All right, so now, and we will be revising and everything that will happen this week. So that was the first draft, and now we are going to work on the outline more today. And 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of us are here today. Okay, all right. And our next one that's coming up, as you know, is our informative speech. So if we look at the schedule, this is where we are. We did profile speech last week, and then We will be covering the concepts, all of the introduction, body, conclusion, but I kind of give you a little bit of a preview to informative speech and ask you to work on the format, the script. And today will be a workshop day where I will be reviewing the concepts and then working on the outline. And then on the 25th, which is next Monday, we will be doing our informative speech. So it kind of follows a pattern. Then we think about what's going to have come up. And you know that you're going to do your first basic speech and then first basic speech, and then that's it. Course ends. All right. So here we go. Let's get into our class. This is where we are. And I will go to instructor PowerPoint and go into informative speech and then talk about this one. All right, here we go. All right, so just a quick, everybody needs to know I know what you're doing, but I want your class to also know what you're doing. So let's go with Leah from here. Leah, which one did you choose? Which?
Learning and growing.
Which one? Which is? I'm sorry. 1 second. I had the wrong slide. Sorry, Leah. Okay.
Yeah. The first one. I'm just reading which one it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Learning about like a perspective I don't agree with.
Okay. All right. Learning about a perspective that you don't agree with. What about Stephanie?
I was going to focus on culture in Mexico.
Okay. All right. Culture in Mexico, poverty. All right. Hannah?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the journaling.
Journaling. Okay. All right.
I'm gonna do the ideas.
Which one?
Ideas.
The third one? Or?
The first one, I think.
Oh, the first one. Oh, really? Okay. It's good. It's nice. I'm glad to hear that some of you are attempting the first one. Okay. But, yeah.
I'm doing the first one too.
The first one. Okay. No.
Oh, the journaling one.
The journaling one. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Listen to speaker radio.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. And
I just learn about a different culture.
learn what was that?
I did Ramadan.
Ramadan.
What is Ramadan?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. So, this is good. So, I know what topics we are discussing. So, now if we go back, actually, let me use this and then maybe use this and then talk here. So, this is, these certain things that we did talk about this. Whatever topic you are, doesn't matter if you're going with the, different opinions and different perspectives who you do not agree with, the first one, or it could be journaling, gratitude, or the third one, learning about your different culture. I really want you all to think about that hermeneutic question that we talked about. Why is it important for you to, do this topic? Why does this speech matter to you? You got to find that place, all right? And that's going to be your kind of like a focal point that will take you throughout the speech. So hopefully everybody has found a question, and we call that the hermeneutic question, the entrance into your speech. Okay, so that's hermeneutic question, something that you want to, and I would call that your entrance into the speech. All right, that's your entrance into the speech, and that's really important for us to kind of take that time and see whether we really got a solid question. So that is your point of interpretation, because what you're doing through your informative speech, you're interpreting something about the topic that you have chosen. Okay, it could be Ramadan, it could be talking about perhaps poverty in Mexico, something that makes you think. And it not only makes you think, you have to think about it not only through your lens, but what do you think will make the audience think as well? What is it about the poverty in Mexico that is kind of going to be interesting? Because poverty can happen in a lot of countries. What is it about Mexico that we want to interpret? Okay, so you've got to find that, and that's what we do, and that's something for any research paper. That's your art. Okay, what is it that you're interpreting? And those are the ones, the good questions, the the strong questions which kind of leads you into a window where there's a lot of meaning happening because of the question that you have posed. It's almost like you open one window and then through that window another window opens and then another window opens. That has to be the depth of meaning that you will have in your speech. Okay, so that's how important, and that's why I'm really going to emphasize this one. Once you got this one correct, there's not correct or there's nothing wrong or correct, but if you have a really strong question which kind of makes people think hard, I think you've got a winner there. So you've got to think about it this way. All right. So now when you think about your introduction, remember this is also a 5-minute speech. Okay. We just did. I teach 3 sections of the same course, the one that I'm teaching you in COD, and I teach a Monday, Wednesday class. So this today, my students went for their informative speech today. So I had 4 or 5 speeches, and I can give you the topics that they did. Is one of my students, and thinking about order of speeches. So Bhakti, so what did she do her speech on? She did it on Buddhist flags. And she was looking at Buddhist flags, and she just found that very intriguing to see Buddhist flags hanging outside people's houses. And it's like just not in Tibet. It's perhaps a world phenomenon. Sometimes she was telling me that, and she actually got a flag, and I said, where did you pick that up from? She said, I went to Wall Market, and this is where they sell. It's like that popular. And she did that, and she was talking about that was a focus, of course. She wanted to talk about Buddhist flags. It's like a flag with different colors and with scripts written on those flags. And she talked about the importance of having a spiritual anchor in a person's life. So she was talking about that, and that was her focus, how this can be a spiritual anchor. So that was one speech. Then I had another speech by the second speaker, Alex. What was his speech? His speech was about why, the whole thing about the Mongols, okay, and the aggression in them. Why are they so, the fact that historically we know them as a very aggressive clan. And he kind of demystifies that and says that's not about aggression, how we know about that, but he said nobody knows how they conquered places, but they, instead of spreading their culture and spreading how they wanted to live, they actually assimilated from the places that they conquered. So if they conquered China, they imbibed Buddhism from there, and they picked up something else that he said. Most of them were Buddhists, and even the script, they picked up the script from the language. They didn't have a language. It was this aggressive race, and wherever they went and plundered. They picked it up, and then this was just a 5-minute speech. And he kind of made us, revisit and change how we think about Mongols. He was talking about Genghis Khan. That was just a very brief mention, but the whole speech was that. Then I had another student today who talked about this all informative speech. He just wanted to talk about, he says, he's Irish, and he discussed with his dad, and he said, why don't you talk about the Irish independence? And he said, typically, I'm Irish, and what people know about, they just think about St. Patrick's Day and getting drunk. But do you know that we are so, he was telling us the 3 metaphors that you should be looking at: courage, justice, and something else. And he was talking about this Irish independence movement. The whole speech was very historical, and he completely knew his speech. In 5 minutes, he did that. That was one. The last one was very challenging, and I was really rooting for that student. So his speech was about the national breakfast that happens here in US, right? It's a national breakfast commission where all the political leaders get together, and there's a breakfast arranged, and it has a very religious underpinning. And he talks about how US traditionally, the Constitution is there should be separation from the church and the state. And he questions that, and he talks about that breakfast. And then he talks about a documentary that he watched. and how it kind of talked about how many presidents are guilty of doing that same thing. So that was, I think, one of the most challenging ones because I worked with him on that one, just like I would work with you guys. And I said that this is interesting, and I really said, you have this conviction of doing this, but it's 5 minutes. His name is Kate. And I said, do you think you'll be able to do it? And he today it's like really rooting for me to do it in 5 minutes. So he talked about that, and he was talking about the separation of the church and the state and how it is not, how politics gets really blurry and muddy here. So that was his speech. So these were some of the speeches that I heard today. And so I told them that I'm going to meet you guys, and we're going to be doing speech writing. So that's something. So the reason I'm discussing this is kind of to give you an idea of, the kind of speeches that students have done. All these are informative speeches, and as I mentioned, all of them had the kind of the whole demeanor, the whole the way when they came and they started talking about it, it was as if they had 100% control of their topic. They were experts. Okay, I didn't know anything about the Mongols till Alex told me. I did. I had a little bit of, and kind of we did an audience analysis in class as well. So I think my level of knowledge on a scale of 1 to 10 was probably at a 3, and then he took it to 10. But then everybody, he's just not talking about a topic, but kind of when I'm talking this hermeneutic question, they kind of changed a notion of something that most people, when people talk about the Mongols, it's aggression, but they don't really know that it's not all about aggression. The way the spread happened, there was a lot of strategy that went into it, and aggression was not one of them. And how we think about them as aggressive, but they actually, they assimilated. Wherever they went, they were kind enough to assimilate and imbibe and assimilate the culture of the place that they plundered. So again, even the Irish history, the spin was a different one. The Buddhist flags, she talked about that, and she just talked about how we need a spiritual anchor in our lives. So kind of revisiting and looking at things in a different way. And the content was completely theirs. Because when they came, they were the teachers. I mean, I didn't have any content knowledge. So they came, and those 5 minutes, they owned those 5 minutes, and they presented their speech. A lot of strategies that they used were a lot of analogies. Okay, so then when Alex like this, I said, how did you even think about this analogy? When he started talking, the first thing that he talked about is that when the Mongols were there, they were almost like Microsoft. Mongols and Microsoft. So he's like the Microsoft, when they came into existence, there were a lot of competitors who were like, you didn't want them to be there, and people who were like they had a lot of competition, and it was like when Mongols came into existence, there were a lot of competition from other clans, and so there was a lot of analogies, and I think some of the best teachers, for me at least, are teachers who can provide very nice, simple examples, story-like examples that I could connect with. And I think that's something that you need to do, because all the topics that you will have is your content, is your knowledge. If it is about Ramadan, you know about Ramadan, okay? So you want to give me some examples, some very simple examples that I could relate to. I may have in terms of knowledge about Ramadan, I do have an idea. Perhaps on a scale of 1 to 10, my knowledge is perhaps 4 or 5. So I don't know what concepts you will be talking about, but you got to give me some examples that makes me understand the ritual, okay, or some of the rituals that can define this period. So this is what I wanted to talk about, is that first of all, this thing about I'm going to anyone, when I look at your script, I want to see what is it that you're exploring. So I will be very finicky and kind of push you with this one for sure. The rest of the things will follow. I know that the rest of the things will follow into place. The introduction, of course, this is going to be simple, body and conclusion. So you know that. Yes, okay, so yeah, intro, body, conclusion. And I need to hear the question. Your hermeneutic question has to be here. you got to put it in when you're doing this. You got to put it in a context. So it can't exist by itself. So you have to create a context. Why is it important for us to hear your topic? What is the importance? So when you do that, you're actually in the introduction. You don't talk about the content. That's really comes in the body. Some of you, I think, with our profile agency, zoomed into the topic in the introduction. That's something that I have kind of told you in the beginning that let's ease into it. Okay, so introduction is the time when you're warming up the audience. All right, so and work on the context. Try to develop the context. Why is it important for us to hear your topic? Why? And that's that, because when you're doing that, you're creating a bond. That's your main goal in the introduction. Create a bond with the audience. Okay, don't worry about time passing. You will be there. Spend about a minute, and I will say 1 minute, because today I just saw that some students were in the 2-minute zone, kind of struggled with the body. So I would probably do a 1 minute, not more than that, because this is informative speech. So your speech is going to be heavily based on your body. Okay. So 1 minute on the introduction. The body, you talk about. I'm going to see how you've arranged it in terms of organization. And 3 is a magic number, 1, 2, and 3. 3 points, 3 concepts that inform your speech. Like today, I had some of my students organize their speech in a chronological or time order. Okay. For example, the students I told you talked about the Irish independence. Independence early years, middle years, and later years. Okay. I had some of my students talk about in terms of metaphors, hope, compassion, and can't remember. So she had it in terms of metaphors. So you can do like a metaphor, 3 metaphors that you want to explore, or 3 concept metaphor symbols that you want to explore, or timeline, early years, middle years, current. All right. If you're doing it in terms of, I see that there's different ways to arrange it. I would like to see that you're following some kind of pattern there. And during this is the time when you use analogies, examples, description. I talked about the five informative speech strategies, which were description. Are you using? And you can't really use everything. Description, definition, demonstration, explanation, narration.
Can we use visuals for this?
You can if you want. I'm sorry.
Images.
Yeah, you could, but be careful about the time. So if you have 5 minutes, again, if you do it, it's not a requirement. But if you want to do it, you can. Don't spend more than 30 seconds on that. Like today, I had my student who the same. She wanted to see whether these. I didn't know that these whiteboards are magnetic. So she had 2 magnets. Quickly, she opened the flag, put one end there, and then she just showed the flag, and everybody was staring at those flags. It was good. It was interesting to have the visual there. So, anybody? All right. Okay. So these are some of the strategies, informative strategies that you could either use 1 or 2 or whatever. I'm going to ask you which ones have you used. You don't have to use all of them. 1 or 2 is fine. Narration. And then finally, I would like you to, and in the conclusion that I did see how well you guys used metaphors in your speech last week. Very nicely done. Those of you used metaphors. I'm going to talk about, I remember some of them. But this time, for sure, in the conclusion, again, you have about a minute, okay, maybe 30 seconds, even less. Because your focus is going to be, this is informative speech, your biggest focus is going to be on the body of the speech. So I would probably have about 3 minutes, 30 seconds for your body of the speech, and the conclusion, 30 seconds to 1 minute, okay? 30 seconds to 1 minute. And this is where I want to see if, how again, it's that one metaphor of some metaphors that kind of crystallize your experience. What is the insight that you've got? Okay, if it is grit, if it is courage, if it is empathy that you've learned through the speech, what is that one thing that you've learned? And what is that you want the audience, that one thing that the audience can learn from your speech? So how well have you done that through your execution? Okay. Any questions, class, at this point?
So the perspective of the speech can be kind of simultaneously like what we've learned, but we're also teaching the class. Is that right? I feel like
Nice.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of hearing both. Like,
Yes,
we're not
yes.
just teaching the class. You want us to give like at the conclusion or something like what we took from it.
I would, yes, that's a good question. So this is something what we call the private and the public, right? So when you are is it the my just I'll turn it down later on. So this is something what we call is the understanding what's the private and what's the public. So when you are talking about your insight, the private, but then it exudes to the public. That's something that you want. You've learned, you got that insight from the audience, and you want and make that connection that this is the insight I've got. And then if you want to carry it over, exude it to the audience, what's the connection? All right. So maybe give an example there. It's always you're establishing a context, and then tell us that this is the insight that you may you may benefit from, or this may appeal to you. Okay. Sometimes you do that directly in, kind of really telling the audience. Some you don't need to do that. I'm going to watch and see. I'm going to read your script. If being implicit and just talking about yourself makes it more powerful, and implicitly the audience will imbibe from you, and that's a strategy, and you want to do that, go ahead and do that. Okay, so we'll play with two different options. Let's see which one sounds better. Okay, all right. This is something's going on with this one. Okay, all right. Okay, switch user. Okay, again, it's logging out. Okay. Oh no. Okay, I will be looking at time because I don't want to lose this time with you. Let's see how we're doing on time. I wanted to show you a few things. But if I assume running out of time, it's already 6 minutes back. We don't have time. Yeah. Seriously? Okay. Right. So this is something that I want you all to see. We did watch. I know. I remember that we watched Daryl Davis his speech, right? And we didn't watch the full thing, right? We didn't, and I wanted to show that to you. And there was another one. So there's a lot that I wanted to show. Anyway, so let's finish that speech. We have a discussion, and then I will start working with you. While I'm working with you, I will also provide you feedback for your speeches. Okay, so let's go here. Daryl Davis. And we'll see what Daryl Davis speech. There you go, TED Talk. And let's just watch it from the beginning because otherwise we'll lose the context. Okay. We watched the first 10 minutes. It's about a 17-minute speech.
A Baltimore City police officer in particular, named Robert White. Well, this is a police officer's uniform, a Baltimore City police officer in particular, named Robert White. He gave me this uniform when he and I became the very best of friends. But, you know, I first heard about Robert White when I was a teenager. And then I later met him. I met him just a month after he got out of prison. He was in prison serving a sentence for assault with intent to murder 2 black men with a shotgun, and another sentence, conspiring to bomb a synagogue in Baltimore. Now, I am a professional musician. I tour all over this country and around the world playing music. So how do I end up with a policeman's uniform? He worked for the police department by day, but he also had another job, which required a different kind of uniform. He was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan for the state of Maryland. This is his robe. This is what he wore when he conspired to bomb the synagogue and when he made plans to kill 2 black men with a shotgun. To understand why I have these items, let's take a little journey back in my life. I was born in Chicago in 1958. At the age of 10, in 1968, my parents had moved to Belmont, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston. I was one of 2 black kids in the entire area, at least in the school. I joined the Cub Scouts at the age of 10 at the invitation of some of my white male friends. And we had a march from Lexington to Concord to commemorate the ride of Paul Revere. My then mother let me carry the American flag. And as I was marching as the only black scout in this parade, along with the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, and Brownies, I think 4-H Club was there and some other organizations. As I was marching down the street, somewhere along the parade route, I began getting hit with bottles, soda pop cans, rocks, and debris from the street by just a small group of white spectators mixed in with the all-white crowd on the sidewalk. This was the first time I ever experienced anything like this, and I did not understand. I thought perhaps those people did not like the Scouts. I did not realize I was the only Scout getting hit until my then mother and the other Scout leaders came rushing over and huddled over me with their bodies and escorted me out of the danger. They never explained why, even though I kept asking, why are they hitting me? Why are they hitting me? What had I done wrong? When I got home, my mother and father, who were not at the march, were fixing me up with mercurochrome and Band-Aids and asking me, how did you fall down and get all scraped up? I told them I didn't fall down. I told them exactly what happened. For the first time in my life, my parents sat me down at the age of 10 and explained racism to me. I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. It was inconceivable to me that someone who had never laid eyes on me, never spoken to me, knew absolutely nothing about me, would want to inflict pain upon me for no other reason than this, the color of my skin. So I did not believe my parents. But more and more incidents began happening. And I realized my parents had told me the truth. I didn't know why people felt that way, but I realized that there were some people who did. So at the age of 10, I formed a question in my mind. That question was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? So I grew up in my adolescent years, spending a lot of time buying books on black supremacy, white supremacy, the Nazis in Germany, the neo-Nazis over here, the Ku Klux Klan, anti-Semitism, trying to understand that ideology, trying to get the answer to my question, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? None of these books provided the answer. So then in my adult life, I thought, you know what? Who better to ask, how can you hate me when you don't even know me, than someone who would join an organization whose historical premise has been hating those who do not look like them and who do not believe as they believe. So I had my secretary who books my bands and all that kind of stuff. I said, listen, I want you to get a hold of this guy. His name is Roger Kelly. I acquired Mr. Kelly's phone number. Mr. Kelly is what's known as the Imperial Wizard. Bob White was a Grand Dragon, meaning state leader. Imperial Wizard is a national leader in the Ku Klux Klan. I was told, do not fool with Mr. Kelly, Daryl. He will kill you. But I had to have the answer to my question. I was hoping it wouldn't be the final answer if I met him. So I gave Mary his phone number and said, give him a call. Do not tell him that I'm black, but see if he'll sit down and give your boss an interview who wants to discuss the Ku Klux Klan. So she did. Mr. Kelly agreed. So we reserved a motel room. Mary and I got there early. Right on time, to the minute, there was a knock on the door. Mary hops up and runs around the corner, opens the door. In walks Mr. Kelly and his bodyguard. The bodyguard was armed with a sidearm right here on his hip. When they saw me, they just kind of like froze, because they were expecting a white guy. And I stood up and went like this to show I had nothing in my hands, and I approached. I said, hi, Mr. Kelly, I'm Daryl Davis. He shook my hand. The bodyguard shook my hand. I said, come on, have a seat, have a seat. Mr. Kelly sat down. And the bodyguard stood at attention to his right. And we conversed, agreed on some things, disagreed on other things, but he let me know. He let me know that I was not his equal. I was inferior, he was superior. And this was justified and determined by the color of my skin. I wasn't there to fight him, I was there to learn from him. Where does this ideology come from? Because once you learn where it comes from, you can then try to figure out how to address it and see where it's going. So we continued conversing. Maybe about a little over an hour into this interview, there was kind of a strange noise in the room, kind of, and we all jumped. And I popped up out of my seat, the table between us. And I was ready to come across that table and take down Mr. Kelly and the bodyguard, because I knew that Mr. Kelly had made that noise. I didn't know what that noise was. I could not discern it. And I kept hearing the voice of the person who gave me his phone number saying, Daryl, do not fool with Roger Kelly. He will kill you. I did not want to die that day. But I knew that he made the noise. And I'm trying to think, what did I just do? What did I just say to cause him to make some kind of weird noise? And, I'd gone into what you call survival mode. In survival mode, people will do one of three things. Some people, when you fear for your life, some people will just tense up and start shaking. And you can be taking a hammer or a bat and hitting them on the head. And they will not even be deflecting the blow, just be like this. That is called paralysis by fear. And it is a real thing. The second thing people will do is they will try to run away as quickly as possible to put as much distance between the source of the fear and themselves. That is the best option, if you can do that. However, it was not an option for me, because you cannot outrun a bullet in a motel room. I was not armed, neither was my secretary. The only person I know for sure who was armed was the bodyguard. You can see his weapon right here. I did not know if Mr. Kelly had a weapon under his jacket or not. He was wearing a dark blue suit and tie. The third option is do a preemptive strike to mitigate the danger. In other words, get them before they get you. So I was about to do that. And when I came up out of my seat, I was looking right into Mr. Kelly's eyes. I didn't say a word, but my eyes were speaking loud and clear. In fact, my eyes were shouting so loud he could hear my eyes. My eyes were saying to him, what did you just do? Well, Mr. Kelly's eyes had fixated upon mine, and his eyes were silently asking me the same question. Well, the bodyguard had his hand on his gun, looking back and forth between the Klan leader and me, like, what did either one of y'all just do? Well, Mary, she realized what happened. She had filled the hotel room ice bucket with ice and put some cans of soda in there to get them cold, to be hospitable, and offer Mr. Kelly a beverage. The ice had melted, and the cans came cascading down the ice, and then it made that same noise. And we all began laughing at how ignorant we all had been. Now, I won't say this was a learning moment, but it was definitely a teaching moment. And what was taught was this: all because some foreign, and underscore, highlight, circle the word foreign, entity of which we were ignorant, being the bucket of ice and cans of soda, entered into our little comfort zone via the noise that it made, we all became fearful and accusatory of one another. Thus, ignorance breeds fear. We fear those things we do not understand. If we do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will breed hatred, because we hate those things that frighten us. If we do not keep that hatred in check, that hatred in turn will breed destruction. We want to destroy those things that we hate. Why? Because they cause us to be afraid. But guess what? They may have been harmless and we were just ignorant. We saw the whole chain almost unravel to completion had the bodyguard drawn his gun and shot, namely me or my secretary, because it's his job to protect his boss and protect himself. Or had I pounced and hurt one of them, trying to protect myself or my secretary. We did see that whole chain unravel to completion 3 months ago in Charlottesville, Virginia, 2 hours from where I live. Because ignorance was present, fear was present, hatred was present, and destruction occurred when a white supremacist got in his car and tried to mow down people and resulted in killing one young lady named Heather Heyer. So, we carried on with this interview. No more incidents. I would invite Mr. Kelly to my home. He would come to my home. He'd bring his bodyguard. Bodyguard would sit on the couch next to him. Sometimes the bodyguard would get bored, pull out his gun, start twirling it on his finger like this, while Mr. Kelly and I talked. I would invite over some of my other friends, my Jewish friends, my black friends, my white friends, other people, just to engage in conversation with Mr. Kelly. Other than me, I wanted him to experience different people. This went on for a couple years. He did not invite me to his home, but he would have dinner or lunch at my table with me, this inferior person that he deemed not his equal. After a couple years, he began coming down to my house by himself, a national leader in the Ku Klux Klan. And then he began inviting me to his house. I would see his Klan den, and I would take pictures, take notes for my own knowledge and things. Then he began inviting me to Klan rallies. I'd go to these Klan rallies that have a 20 or 30-foot cross, wooden cross, two beams tied together, wrapped in burlap. The burlap was soaked in what they call Klan cologne, otherwise known as diesel fuel or kerosene. And Klansmen and Klanswomen in their robes and hoods and torches were paraded around in a circle around the cross. And either the Grand Dragon or Imperial Wizard would say, "Klansmen, halt!" And they'd all stop. Then he'd say, "For God," and they'd say, "For God," "For race," "For race," "For country," "For country." Klansmen approached the cross, and they'd all close in to the base of the cross. Klansmen light the cross, and they'd throw their torch down at the foot, and whoosh, this big cross would be on fire. There you go. There's one rally, such rally with the Klansmen. That's conversing with the Klan at a rally. And there's a rally with the cross on fire. Now, they would give speeches, I would take more notes, and try to absorb and try to understand, not that I'm believing in what they're preaching, but I'm trying to learn and understand what is the impetus for it. So, after a while, CNN got wind of this and wanted to do a story on me. They knew me as a musician. They knew who Mr. Kelly was as a Klan leader. So they followed me to a rally. First, they came to my gig on Friday night to show what I really do. And then Saturday morning, they followed me to a Klan rally 2 hours from my house. And they said to me, "Do you think Mr. Kelly will even talk to us?" I said, "I will do better than that. When this rally is over, I will get Mr. Kelly, the Imperial Wizard of the Klan, to come to my house and you can interview the Klan leader inside a black man's house." I said, "Oh, okay." So they filmed the rally. And when the rally was over, I spoke with Roger Kelly, told him what was going on, and he agreed. He drove without his bodyguard 2 hours out of his way, sat in my basement, and interviewed with CNN. And this clip was shown every hour for 24 hours all over the world. I want to show it to you right now, and I want you to pay particular attention to what Mr. Kelly says. He says that even though he and I would do different things together, it did not change his views on the Klan, because his views on the Klan had been cemented in his mind for years. Then he goes on to say how he believes in separation of the races, because he finds that to be in the best interest of all races. But listen to what he says about respect towards the end of the clip. Please show the clip.
Davis is one of the few African Americans you will ever find attending a KKK rally. More than attending, he is welcome.
I got more respect for that black man than I do you white niggers out there.
It's been a tough day for the Klan. Their Maryland rally found many local residents rejecting the message of white separatism. After it's over, Daryl Davis hangs around backstage with his friend, Klan wizard Roger Kelly. It's not unusual for blacks and whites to be friends, but it is unusual to find a black man and a Klan leader chatting pleasantly over an orange soda after a Klan rally. The relationship started over a book Davis was writing. His secretary set up an interview with Roger Kelly, but didn't tell him Davis was black. They talked and talked some more. Davis learning about the Klan, Kelly learning about Davis.
We get to know one another and we do different things, you know. It hasn't changed my views about the Klan, you know, because my views on the Klan's been pretty much cemented in my mind for years.
Kelly and his Klan friends go to hear Davis and his band. And Davis goes to their rallies.
I sat on the front row and I listen to each Klansman speak. Some things I agree with, other things I did not agree with.
Davis thinks that his presence promotes badly needed understanding.
Hate stems, I believe, from fear. The fear of the unknown. And I think this is all across the board, regardless of whether it's a Klansman or anything else.
But he has no illusions about the Klan. If he did, his friend would be quick to disabuse them.
I believe in separation of the races. I believe that's in the best interest of all races.
Does he really? Or has friendship transcended the color barrier? Listen to Kelly at a Klan rally.
I'm a color, I'm made in the hell back, because I believe in what he stands for, he believes in what I stand for. A lot of times we don't agree with everything, but at least he respects me to sit down and listen to me. And I respect him to sit down and listen to him.
The strange relationship of a KKK wizard and his black buddy. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, CNN Sunday Morning.
Respect is the key. Sitting down and talking, not necessarily agreeing, but respecting each other to air their points of view. Because of that respect and my willingness to listen, and his willingness to listen to me, he ended up leaving the Klan, and there's his robe right there. I am a musician, not a psychologist or sociologist. If I can do that, anybody in here can do that. Take the time to sit down and talk with your adversaries. You will learn something, and they will learn something from you. When two enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. It's when the talking ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence. So keep the conversation going. Thank you all very much.
Right. Okay. Talk a little bit about some of the concepts that we learned here, and then straight away, right around, 1 second, James, stop this. Right around 7:15, I will start looking at your scripts and then start talking to you about it. We spend about 15 minutes. All right, class. So a few questions that I wanted to discuss with you. Here, if you think about the speech, what was the entrance to the speech? What was so unique? What was his entrance? Why did he, he was invited, of course, as a TED Talk speaker, and you saw that this was filmed by CNN. You've seen how different he looks now and through the years. It wasn't a 1 week challenge that you guys did. It was a much more long challenge that he took up. And what was that uniqueness? What was that entrance? What was that? Why the speech? Why will it lead us to think more and more and more about his speech?
What did he say that got us stumped?
I'm sorry?
Are you asking what he said that got us, like?
I'm talking about the hermeneutic. What was the entrance? What was the hermeneutic entrance to the speech? What was
The uniform.
The uniform, okay. which I think this was a very, the visual that he used, if you look at the way he started and at the end, when he said that he left the client, this is a great moment. But what was so, what was very interesting about his speech that, and I think I'll get different responses from all of you. What was that one thing that you found which was the guiding light in his speech and was one of the most interesting things about his speech? Yes,
Like
Derek.
not agreeing with somebody, but understanding, like,
Right.
getting respect or something to agree with the person.
Right.
That's
So,
how I thought.
so disagreeing with somebody
Yeah, but
fundamentally,
Yeah.
but yet trying to listen,
Working with that
respect.
person.
Yeah, and respecting his that's
Different.
differences. Right. Okay. All right. Wants to go. Armando, what do you think?
I'm just fascinated about how he can actually stay during the meetings and people are not really mad at him.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true. It was I would totally agree that it was an act of extreme courage. Him going to those rallies and and it was covered by CNN. I think there was a 24 hours coverage on that thing that all over the world they showed. This was very interesting that he actually did that, and it was established not in a day. It took several years for that change to happen. Um, Yasmin, what do you think about the speech?
About the speech
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. I mean, the same question. What was the most interesting part of the speech that you remember or think about?
The respect part, just
Right.
that they have different views, but they both
How do you still
each other
respect?
mutually.
Right. How do you still respect when you're so fundamentally different from each other? Right. Okay. Eve, what do you think?
I really like the ending because it was applicable to like anyone,
Right.
and it didn't really it had context behind it, but not within it.
It had context behind it. Okay. And the ending was, and I'm going to go back to Leah's question here. Remember, you just asked me a question like, if I have to end a speech, do I end it with my insight? Is it how do I make that demarcation between the public, private, and the public, right?
Mhm.
And you saw that he did it both ways. That was a great example. He talked about this is what I've learned, respect, and this is what you guys can do. If I can do it, I'm not a sociologist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a musician. If I can do it, any of you could. So that was an insight, and that's how from the public, from the private, it became public. I was thinking about your question when I heard that. Okay. What do you think? Yeah.
I think that the whole topic that we're talking about was very interesting. It just catches a lot of attention because it's not something common.
Right.
And I think it's great that he actually understood like the fundamentals of human behavior.
Right.
He talked a lot about the fear of the unknown.
Right.
And I guess that a lot of this is actually true. We are scared with things that we don't know.
Right.
And it's normal for humans to behave like that.
Right.
And I really like his ending too.
Right.
Because he shows that you don't have to be labeled as a psychologist or a sociologist to be able to come up with or talk about things that are fundamentally about that specific field.
Right.
Mhm.
And anybody can, yeah. And I like the way, yeah, that's true. When he talks about that whole thing, if you think about an informative speech, he actually tells you and he gives you, there were so many things that it was very informative. In fact, when he was talking about the 3 kinds of fear, one is paralysis by fear, right? You just like saying that you hit that person, the person won't know. Then there's something that you do a preemptive strike because you know that enemy is coming, so I'm going to strike, get them before they get you. The third one, and there was another one that he said is when I can't remember. There's the three different things that he talked about in terms of fear, and then which was I think one of the really high points. I think some of my students also felt that way when they heard the speech is ignorance, connection between ignorance, fear, hatred, destruction. And he talked about that, how this chain happens. And that moment that if one of them would have done the wrong thing, the outcome would have been very different. That the first time when they all were in that motel, in that room, if he would have struck him, or if they would have, the whole outcome would have, but thankfully that didn't happen. But one wrong move because of ignorance and fear would have ended up in a very different outcome. So I think that was also a chilling moment for me. So if you see that there were so many, and the whole thing was, if you think about the strategies, narration was used. He was doing storytelling. Narration was primarily used. There was explanation, when he talks about ignorance, fear, hatred, destruction. Talks about when he talks about fear in different forms. That was definition and description was there. He talks about the whole clan and how they would get together. The whole demonstration that he did. How their whole ritual is for the country, for God, and he actually did that and showed you. So all of that, I think this was a really good informative speech. Do you think it was persuasive? Did it persuasive? Do you think it had let's say if you heard the speech, what percentage was informative and what percentage was persuasive for you? Yeah.
I think like the speech was very informative.
Very informative.
But
Yeah.
at the end, I think there is like a little call to action,
Right.
like respecting other people.
Right. Yeah. So overall, it was very informative, all the strategies, and then at the end, I think there was a clear call to action, which made it persuasive at the end, right at the end of the speech. Okay. So all right. So I did want to discuss this, but I think it's a great example of 20. You are not going to get 17 minutes, and I'm not hoping that you're going to show all the the hermeneutic question, the entrance into the speech, all of the 5 star. I'm not expecting that at all. Do what you can do as we think about what I talked to you about just before we got the speech. Wanted to show you the speech to show kind of how it goes, how it happened in the speech. It's all this whole narration, this whole. If you think about this, there's another speech, and I wish I could show you more and more speeches. I have 2 more speeches that I would have liked to show you. Let's see how we do on time today, and then we have time. I'll show you. But this was an experiment that he did, and this is exactly you guys did a challenge. You challenge yourself to learn a new culture, challenge yourself to understand, do journaling, challenge yourself to hear opinions or perspectives from people who you do not agree with. You did that. So, but he did this challenge for a long time. There's another example of the speech. Perhaps not, nothing comes close to that. After you guys watch the best today, nothing comes close to this one. I for sure. That's an awesome example of our informative speech and how it could have been better. I wanted to show you a weak example as well. You saw a strong example. I wanted to show you a weak example. Not weak in terms of the content, but I think weak in terms of structure. All right, I would have shown that to you as well. Let's see how we go. And then there's another speech, I think, which is a great speech as well. It's, in terms of informative speech, I think it's a good speech, but this one has definitely, if you look at TED Talks, this got about 12.5 million views. Okay, this really became it was like a blockbuster speech because people just loved the content of the speech. This idea of actually being with somebody who, and the whole question, if you think about it, how can you hate me when you don't know me? That was the question. Constantly explored that. In the introduction, the body, the conclusion. How can you hate me when you don't know me? Just based on the color of my skin, how does that work? I think that was the whole content of this speech really was a wonderful speech. All right, class, now having, let's see how we are. All right, 7:05, I would like to do something with all of you. So while I talk to you, I would like you to work on this particular speech that I want you to watch. And I'm going to show you there are 2 speeches that I would like you to watch. So while I'm going to be working with you, I will ask you to, and if you have headphones, kind of play it softly. There are 2 speeches which I want to show you, and I'm going to show it to you, and then I think by 17 we should start. As Blackboard. Let's see. Seriously. Okay. One second here. So I want you to watch this one. I'm going to put it on Blackboard for you, class. So I'm just going into your Blackboard shell, and I'm going to in-class assignment here, and I'm going to build it out here, assignment. I'm going to put it here. Conscious parenting, I want you all to watch this one, this speech. I'll get the conscious parenting TED Talk. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I will be hearing from you, so I will not give you any information or anything. I just want you to watch this one and then respond to this one. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. This is this. Once, yeah, I'll give you all about 20, 25 minutes to work on this one. And then once 25 minutes, then I'll give you another one. So this is the in-class. Parenting. Add this one. So. Shafali. And then another one that I've told you wasn't that. This is a strong one. And this one. And this one is due today around 7:45. Now 7:30, 20 minutes, right? So 7:30 p.m. Okay. This one and the other one that let me just put it here for you. The other one that I wanted you to watch, that you kind of now you can be completely covered. It's called 1 second every day. Yeah, this is the one. This is the one. This is about 8 minutes, and I would like you to watch this one and tell me what could have been better in the speech. But this is also an experiment that he runs, and the concept is similar. It's an experiment. It's a challenge that he takes on, creates content. It's his. The whole content is his. He creates an experiment, and you'll get to know what the experiment was. However, in terms of the speech, you can even watch the script of the speech here, read the transcript. You can do that, and tell me what could have been better. There's something off, and I want you all to think about what is off, and this is almost a timeline like yours. Really? I never. Strange. And I will say that you should be finishing it today by probably shift the time to 8 by 20 p.m. Enough time. 10 points. Okay. So it's all added. Okay, value must be provided. 1 second, every day. Some guiding lines. All right. It's okay. All right. 7:12, not bad. Please open your, while you work on this one, you can use your headphones and I will be coming to you with my notes for your speech and we can talk about it.
Do we want to work in Holder?
You could if you want to. Yeah, just don't go out the, but if you want, you can. You don't, that's okay, then just, if you want to go outside and just the hallway, that's fine with me. Just don't go outside my site. Who wants to go with me first? Oh, okay, all right. Okay, all right, let's, you want to go outside again?
Sure.
Okay, and then. She said no. Yeah. to go next? Yes.
Um,
Yes.
are you supposed to be listening or listening?
Both.
Both?
Yes. Who wants to go next?
Okay, what about mine?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. start? Hannah?
Okay.
Yeah. Leah, you want some? Sure. who wants to go? Amanda? Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Get it?
Yeah, sure.
Rick wants to come there. So Yesenia is the only person. Okay, Rick will cover everyone. Most wonderful. Yesenia will come. And once Yesenia is done, class, are we just going to have a speech by Miguel? And, and that's it, by 5 minutes speech, and then we'll be done. All right, we are almost, it's about 5 minutes left, 9:05. Class will end.
Can I start whenever?
I'm sorry?
Can I start whenever I want?
Yeah, you can start, 1 second.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes, so yes, you can start now.
Okay, so the story, the profile speech I'm going to give you guys is probably going to be about a resilient problem that I faced not too long ago. So it's about a close friend of mine. So I'm an international student from Malaysia, and since coming here like 2 years ago, I'm the type of person where I care more about quality than quantity. So I've always been approached with a lot of people that wants to be really close friends too quickly. So I have this friend from my club in COD. It's called Model United Nations, and he's the vice president, and I'm the president for the club, right? And not too long ago, we went to Charlotte together. You know, we went to Charlotte for this conference, and I thought it was going to be a great trip. You know, but as a president, you know, you get all these complaints from the club members, and sometimes it's just overbearing. You know, and like you would think that the only person that you can rely on is your vice president, right? And we are friends outside of the club, and the main problem that we had was actually when we came back from the conference, and we had no sleep. We just got back from the airport, and we had no sleep and whatsoever. And then we had an argument, a 10-minute argument. And to mention that we've been friends for like a year now. And in continuation to that, we had a 10-minute argument. After that, he basically couldn't take it, you know. So after a day, he was like, and I told him after the 10 minutes argument, I was like, you know, you got to give me a couple of days to process what I've gone through and what I've been feeling. So I'll definitely reach out, you know, to you and actually understand that, okay, I value the friendship, you know, because in between the 10-minute argument that we had, I actually told him that, you know, I value our friendship outside of the club. So anything that happens within the club, it shouldn't actually affect our friendship, right? And he basically didn't respect the timeline that I put in for him, and I was telling him that, you know, maybe it's better that you give me a couple of days and be mature about this and actually understand, you know, we are both humans and we have feelings, and it's also, you know, we didn't have any sleep that night, and he couldn't take it. He went to a group, so we had this group chat, right? And he texted in the group like, oh, let's have a meeting all together and we'll discuss the problems. And I specifically told him, why not we just have a meeting when we have a club meeting, right? When we have a club meeting, we can discuss it with our professors and all that. And he was like giving like even like metaphors about the leadership. And I'm not even making this up. He was saying that, oh, the fish rots from the head, you know, and stuff like that, all these mean stuff. And he has like a couple of friends that actually like, you know, tries to gaslight me as well. And I was just like, you know what, this is not the right time for us to have this conversation. We all should just sit down and actually talk about, like, be mature, right? And he wasn't happy. And then he said something about you basically brought a whole bottle of wine into committee, which I did, you know, because it was the last conference, it was the last committee of our session, and I've been hit with all these problems in the club, you know. So he stayed on the group, says the guy who brought a bottle of wine in the bottle in committee, right?
And I was shocked because as a bro, there's some things that you just don't go, no matter what happened, like, you just don't go a logo like that, and I basically, I said back the most funniest thing. I told him that, it's okay that if you want to share this with professors, go ahead. I'll take full responsibility. And I even wrote back a metaphor, a poem, like a metaphor back to him, like empty vessels make the loudest noise. And I left it as that. And we haven't talked much ever since. And it actually hurt me a lot because, as I said, I value quality over quantity. And when I talk to him, I'm really honest about my feelings. But one thing I've learned is that, you got to take care of yourself first at the end of the day, and then you got to understand that other people have other people's problems. And sometimes you can't reach out too far, try to fix a problem, or even try to make them understand that they have a problem. It's like they have to understand at their own time. So that's it. And I think that friendship is a nice thing and a very bad thing. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, class, we should be done. So all of you work hard. You don't have to submit anything else to me this week. If you haven't done your, if you can go and if you haven't done your video recording, you just get extra points if you do that for practicing your speech. So this is extra brown points for you. I just gave you our feedback, so just work on that. You don't need to submit. Just keep working on. That's my time of work. So just keep working on that one. In terms of time, 5 minutes. Yes, thank you. 5 minutes that you have. That's it. Just keep working, writing, practicing, and don't do it every day, try to do it every other day. So give yourself a break one day and then do it another day. Till we meet on Monday with your informative speech. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
What
yes.
were we supposed to turn in yesterday?
The annotated blip and the
Okay.
speech.
Okay.
Okay?
Hey, doctor. Yeah. Said I was marked absent on the absence and I was late.
Okay, I'll mark it. Yeah. I'll mark it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, I think we need to.
Okay, yeah, just mark. Who else need to be marked? Yeah, just
Me
mark.
too.
Okay, all right, I'll do that. Okay, thank you. Bye. Good night.
Oh, me too. And last
Okay, all right.
last week I got an email that I was going to ask.
Oh, okay.
A couple minutes late.
Okay, let me just change it. Let me see. Last full record, attendance record. Let's see. Ian is here today, present. Aurora not here. Sebastian here. No, Sebastian's not here, right? Okay. Yeah. Cancel. Okay, Sebastian wasn't there. So Damien not here. Janelle not here. Stormy not here. Kenyan here. Listen, I did mark you present for last year. Okay, yeah. And Joshua is here. There you go. All right. Okay. All right. Good night.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.